coming at you on Now See This. A car thief test drives a brand new SUV and learns that heat comes standard.
There's flames shooting out of the car right now.
A pursuit between police and one man
Is he holding a gun?
turns into a family affair. And a handful of drunks that are out of their heads
You fucking bastard.
Yeah.
do their best to save face. The wrong way, some horseplay, and a bad guy ballet. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. Lehigh, Utah. As Officer Art Henderson pulls over a sporty red Mustang for speeding, he gets a bad feeling in his gut. And it turns out, his gut is right.
As he turned around and started to drive off, I looked at him and said, "Stop." And he just looked at me and sped off really fast. He had no intention of stopping.
Henderson quickly cranks the wheel of his patrol car, but by the time he turns around, the high-powered Mustang has already shot out of sight. As Henderson searches in vain for the Mustang, he learns the car was stolen, which explains why the suspect is so desperate to get away. Meanwhile, police headquarters receives a valuable tip.
Hello. Okay, we're...
A citizen reports that she has just spotted a red Mustang hastily pulling into a neighborhood garage. In less than a minute, Henderson is parked around the block from the garage. He surveys the scene. For now, everything seems quiet. When backup arrives, Henderson points out the best way for the officers to secure the area. Up around the corner, police quickly seal off the entire block and surround the home in question. Officers fear the suspect could be armed and holding people hostage inside. Soon a breakthrough is made. Officers manage to get 2 women and a child safely out of the house. It turns out they were the only ones inside, and it appears the suspect has vanished. Police move in when suddenly the suspect makes his move. The Mustang blasts out of the garage, tears down the street, and blows past every roadblock in its way.
This guy's coming straight at you in a 3,000-pound bullet. There was no place for me to go. There was no place, if I'd have been out of the vehicle, I'd have been shooting at him.
The officers race to their cruisers and resume the chase, but the wild Mustang refuses to be corralled.
This little car accelerates so fast, I mean, it was hard to just keep on top of him. He was driving so wild and crazy that, I mean, he was just out of control. He was driving over lawns, running over trees, knocking fences down, doing just doing everything he can to get away.
The suspect finally loses his lead after he crashes into the back of a nursing home.
He's in a Fox Bridge right here, 1475 north.
But when the uninjured man bails out of the wreckage, he turns out to be just as wild on foot as he was behind the wheel. And even with horsepower finally on their side, the officers' patrol cars are too unwieldy to keep up with the slippery suspect. Officer Henderson arrives just in time to see the suspect scrambling around a fence. He and his sergeant engage in a furious foot pursuit, and within moments, the suspect is taken down.
My sergeant was able to tackle the suspect with a football tackle.
Police find methamphetamines both in the suspect's possession and in his system. A later search of his home uncovers a treasure trove of other stolen items.
I was very happy to get this guy off the streets.
The Mustang might have been the drugged-out thief's biggest score yet. But in the end, it was too much horsepower for even this wild man to handle. In Los Angeles, California, a car thief is giving new meaning to the term test drive. An hour ago, the suspect stole this SUV from a local auto dealer. By the time the law was called in, the driver had already damaged the merchandise.
And his way of driving apparently was very erratic early on.
Now police are on his tail as he tries out his new wheels on the freeway.
The danger level here increasing as the suspect increases his speed.
The dogged officers keep pace with the racing SUV.
they might be getting ready to pit maneuver this car to try and bring this to an end. We don't see it on the freeway a lot.
Suddenly, the suspect inexplicably starts to slow down, and a closer look reveals him preparing for his next move.
Look, he's reaching over to the right side of the car, taking his seatbelt off. That's an indication that he may be getting ready to run.
As he rapidly exits the freeway, officers scramble to catch up.
He is moving at a very high rate of speed and makes a quick right turn there.
The driver's sudden burst of desperation baffles the officers, and his next move confuses them even more. The suspect pulls into a gas station and comes to a complete stop.
Maybe hoping that he can top off here, but that certainly won't be the case. There's officers all around right now.
Ready for anything, the officers jump out, weapons drawn.
People ordered out of the way. Officers, guns drawn, and they are trying to get these people out of the way.
The obvious reason for stopping would be to fill up on gas, but within seconds, the real reason becomes alarmingly apparent.
You know, the car might be on fire. We're looking, there appears to be smoke coming from under the hood, as well as smoke coming from inside that car.
Even as the cab fills with smoke, the suspect remains inside, putting officers in a terrifying dilemma. If the man is armed and they move in, it could set off a truly explosive firefight. But if the officers do nothing, the spreading flames could blow the entire gas station off the map. Luckily, the smoke and fumes become too much for the unarmed suspect. While the suspect is apprehended, other officers only have moments to check the burning vehicle for passengers.
So this is an extremely dangerous situation. The suspect is out of the car. They're going to want to get him in cuffs and then get him out of there so that they can get those other vehicles out of the way and get this fire put out.
The officers drag the suspect to the relative safety of the patrol cars. But if they don't get the burning SUV away from the fuel, no one will be safe. Thinking fast, one of the officers uses his cruiser to plow the SUV away from the fuel pumps.
There's flames shooting out of the car right now.
The vehicle is quickly pushed out into the middle of the street.
Very quick thinking, quick action there from the California Highway Patrol.
Another officer runs up with a fire extinguisher, just as the fire department arrives on scene. Within moments, the flames are under control. While his wayward test drive may have gone up in flames, this jail-bound suspect should count his blessings things didn't go even worse. Texarkana, Texas. Just off camera, sheriff's deputies question a suspect in connection with a stolen brown Mustang. The four-legged kind.
Leon, I'm asking you to get off the horse. I've asked you several times. If you don't get off the horse, we're going to take you off the horse. And then you're going to go to jail. And then you're going to go to jail. Okay.
Needless to say, Leon is going to jail. But first, officers have to catch him.
About 11:30 that evening, received a dispatch call of a horse theft. I witnessed a subject riding a horse.
Deputies made an obvious connection and wanted to get the suspect's side of the story, but he never gave them the chance. Now he's digging in his heels and leading a three-car posse on an unorthodox pursuit.
Okay, get off the horse. Stop.
Stopping him won't be easy.
Well, you're really limited on what you do to someone on a horse. I got on my PA system, ordered him to stop many times.
Get off the horse. Stop.
The wannabe junkie runs the beast as though he's going for the Triple Crown. But officers are going to make sure he never reaches the winner's circle. Police stay in front of the horse to slow it down.
You need to get off the horse.
But the suspect keeps the animal at a steady gallop, completely ignoring the wailing sirens and flashing lights. So when the man approaches the interstate, deputies get a little more aggressive. An officer jumps out of his patrol car and tries to rein the suspect in, but he stays ahead only by a nose.
At At this time, the original New Boston officer pulled beside him, reached out his driver's side window and sprayed the subject with a pepper spray is actually what it was.
Even with a face full of mace, the Rough Rider continues to flee. But in a pursuit like this, the suspect only has so much control.
The horse pretty much was not going to listen to the rider anymore. It was ready for the chase to be over.
Thanks to this steed's horse sense, the suspect is finally corralled.
Give me your hand. Give me your hand.
But it turns out that Texarkana is not a one-horse town after all. This horse actually belongs to the suspect, a mistake that could have easily been cleared up had he stopped for police in the first place.
Apparently he was running just because he had been intoxicated or was drunk on the horse.
The man is being saddled with 1 count of felony evading and 1 count of public drunkenness. And now he's being put out to pasture. Cops in Willoughby, Ohio know every inch of their town. After all, it isn't exactly a bustling metropolis. So when someone runs from officers, they better know where they're going. This guy doesn't. The suspect was clocked driving 91 in a 60-mile-per-hour zone. Now, officers are on his tail, in his face, and seemingly everywhere in between.
Go. You got him, Rudy?
When the suspect makes a hasty turn into a small park, he finds cruisers waiting. The driver doubles back and punches the gas. Police struggle to adjust on the fly as he hits the town's main drag and drops the pedal to the floor. At this speed, officers don't dare get in front of him, and their cruisers are having a tough time keeping up.
They must have lost him somewhere up there, man. They went through that parking lot at 100 miles an hour.
Officers come to the end of the strip, and the man is nowhere to be seen.
They must have lost him.
But this is the cops' turf, and the suspect can't hide for long. Police catch up just in time to see the driver's speed do him in. The suspect hits a bump at full throttle, and his car goes airborne. It crashes down hard, damaging the front tires and deploying the airbags. The shattered car sputters to a stop, and officers close in.
Come on, put your hands up! Come on!
It turns out both men inside the car are law students, but tonight they took an entirely different kind of bar exam.
You got him, Rudy?
And now charges of DUI and felony evading will ensure that the driver will see the inside of a courtroom sooner than he ever anticipated. In Hollywood movies, high-speed pursuits are action-packed thrill rides.
Anybody know what they're chasing this guy for? They're in traffic.
But in Middleburg Heights, Ohio, they're the last resort when a suspect will not stop. Moments ago, Officer Gregory Knack clocked this truck traveling at 94 miles per hour. The dispatcher also informed him the truck is stolen. Speeds reach well over 100 miles per hour, but Patrolman Knack stays focused on the chase, coordinating with officers ahead and using a siren to alert drivers in the path of the speeding suspect. But each time they cross a city or county line, more jurisdictions get involved, which makes things complicated. It's vital to officer and public safety that every law enforcement agency is working together.
Greg, let us know if he comes back. We're waiting on westbound too. I've got a rope.
In sharp contrast, the driver only has one thing on his mind as he swerves between lanes, keeping Officer Knack from getting in front of him. As Knack stays focused on his dogfight with the suspect, he doesn't realize the highway patrol is joining the chase, until it's too late. With Coley's truck going at 100 miles per hour and directly in front of Officer Knack, the highway patrolman couldn't see the officer's vehicle until after leaving the shoulder. It's amazing that both officers only have minor injuries. About 30 minutes later, the suspect is apprehended while drinking a beer behind the wheel, adding DUI to the charges of reckless driving and fleeing and eluding. Ironically, the truck turns out not to be stolen. Had Coley pulled over, he may have only faced misdemeanor charges. Now he's a felon who nearly cost 2 police officers their lives. Everybody knows drinking and driving is illegal, but there are ways to avoid making bad situations even worse. For instance, if you get pulled over for having one too many, avoiding more penalties could be as easy as not hitting the officer's car. Another obvious way to stay on an officer's good side is to be honest.
Hey, Corey, do me a favor, partner. Come on out here. I gotta make sure you're okay to drive away from here, all right, man?
These cops in Mansfield, Ohio believe this driver's intoxicated.
Just a couple real quick tests and you're on your way, all right?
The officer is straight with the suspect and hopes the suspect will be the same.
See the end of my finger here?
He performs some tests, and much to his relief, he finds that the driver is truthful.
Okay, again. And then 9 back. You doing all right?
He points out an old leg injury that hinders him from performing the officer's tests.
Can you stand on one foot?
Although the cops appreciate his honesty, the suspect isn't convinced they believe him. He decides to prove it. But believe it or not, there are some things police don't want revealed.
No, I ain't trying to show y'all my...
I know. Pull your pants up. Pull your pants up.
Pull your pants up. No, I was just trying to show you.
Bring your hands behind your back here.
No, I was just trying to show you.
I believe you, man. You ain't got to show me your tools.
It was just
All the cops were looking for here was a little honesty. But what they got was the naked truth. Unfortunately, some people insist on making their own rules.
King 501, Queen Lincoln King 501, driving on a rim.
In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, a less than sober lady is skirting the law left and right. First of all, she's driving on a flat tire, as though nothing is wrong. Then she ignores the officer's attempt to stop her. She even drives all the way home without giving a second glance.
Hello.
Hi.
Next, when the officer confronts the well-dressed lady about her transgression, she gives him a second-rate lie.
Any reason why you're just now stopping?
No, I didn't see you.
Didn't see me, didn't hear me with my siren behind you?
No, I did not.
Huh.
But she's determined to make things worse by heading inside, as if her home was her safe asylum.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Let's go.
When that plan fails, the affluent lady reveals her undignified mouth.
You fucking bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah? You wiener.
Watch your head.
But when police try to put the sharp-tongued suspect in the cruiser, she breaks the most serious rule yet.
Hey.
Fucking you.
Get in there.
Fucking goddamn you.
With one swift kick, she goes from DUI to assaulting an officer. She's the perfect example of what not to do. Finally, the most logical way to get off with a warning is to cooperate.
Good. Do you have your driver's license with you?
This Columbus, Ohio driver knows the officer is just doing his job.
Okay. Could you open up your door just a minute? I'm gonna have you step out.
The suspect is polite and does everything the officer asks of him.
Yeah, okay. Let's come on back here a minute so I can talk to you a little bit more about it.
The courteous driver couldn't be more agreeable. In fact, it turns out he isn't even drunk. But this guy is. Mistaking the car for his own, he stumbles onto the scene with a thud. It's a clear sign that even if this had been his vehicle, he shouldn't be driving it. In fact, he probably shouldn't even be walking. All these rules may seem like a lot to remember.
Pull your pants up. Pull your pants up.
So to make it simple, just keep this one tip in mind.
Hey.
If you're thinking about drinking and driving, don't do it.
Oh, you all right?
For the officer in his patrol car, it's been a quiet night on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. But once a drunk driver passes right in front of him, things get a lot more interesting. As the driver meanders slowly down the back road, he doesn't seem to notice the police cruiser following silently behind him. even the glaring headlights of an oncoming motorist barely pull him out of his drunken stupor. But when the patrol car's flashers go on, the man suddenly becomes aware of the officer and decides to run. Now it's a high-speed chase. And with only one unit in pursuit, there's no way to box in the suspect. The officer is on his own, praying there won't be any more oncoming headlights. But while the backup units may be far off, the officer does have a pair of allies: the suspect's own impaired reflexes and the laws of physics. The inebriated driver takes the turn too fast, losing traction, spinning off the road, and smashing into a tree. The vehicle almost rolls over, but lands back on its wheels. Incredibly, the driver is unfazed. He jumps out of his vehicle and flees into a sleepy local neighborhood. Fueled by liquor and adrenaline, the suspect jumps a wall, rightly assuming he's out of the patrol car's reach. But he's far from being out of the officer's reach. Within moments, the drunken suspect is taken into custody, and he has no one to blame but himself. In Pomona, California, a man leads police in a pursuit on his terms.
Getting off the freeway here at Temple, and we'll see where this takes us here.
It started when officers found the man driving on the sidewalk. Now he's back on the road, but he's still setting his own boundaries, and police seem powerless to stop him. Every time they think they have the suspect trapped,
they've got the intersection up ahead shut down.
He creates his own detour.
And this guy's pulling in front of others. Look at those people trying to figure out exactly what's going on here. They have no idea. Wrong side of the road now. Suspect has gone to the wrong side of the road.
He's determined not to yield to police, even if getting away means risking everyone's safety, including his own. He comes to a blocked intersection and bullies his way right through. It's now clear to officers that he won't stop on their command, and everyone is on edge, thinking he may have worse things in store.
Is he holding a gun? That's a cell phone.
As the suspect angrily gestures at police helicopters, officers decide it's time to take more drastic measures.
CHP has just been given authorization to stop the suspect with the pit maneuver if they have the chance.
Officers are poised to move in, but before they can strike, the suspect gets back on the freeway. Performing the pit maneuver here will be too risky. Once again, police are resigned to follow and wait.
They want to immobilize this.
But officers aren't completely helpless. After running the truck's license, they know exactly who the suspect is and where he's headed. His old neighborhood.
People running out into the street, possibly family members. We understand he lives nearby.
The suspect may have the home court advantage, but if he thinks he's going to get support from his family and friends, he's sadly mistaken.
There's somebody in the road talking to him.
His own sister runs over to the truck screaming for him to give up. For now, the suspect and officers are at a stalemate. But the sister knows it's only a matter of time before police lose their patience.
Dangerous situation for officers. They've got a civilian there in the line of fire.
She is so desperate for her brother to finally surrender that when he refuses, she does it for him. Officers move in, and the man doesn't put up a fight. The effect the ordeal has had on his sister is sadly apparent. As officers lead the suspect to the squad car, he finally realizes the full gravity of his deeds, but he probably wasn't thinking about how far-reaching his actions were when he started this pursuit. In fact, he wasn't thinking at all.
There's somebody in the road talking to him.
Fortunately, a concerned sister was able to do the thinking for him.